There's a particular kind of night when silence feels like a velvet drape gently lowering itself over the world. A night when even the restless city seems to pause, suspended between what was and what could be. Tonight is one of those nights. Outside your window, you catch the faint heartbeat of distant traffic. Yet here, in your private realm, the real movement stirs somewhere deeper. Within you, you lie back, sensation drifting from the familiar patterns of the day toward a curious, liminal edge. Not quite sleep, not quite wakefulness. A crossroads where your inner world stirs and remembers itself. Your body, grateful for a respite, settles comfortably into mattress, shoulders releasing an unconscious sigh. In these suspended moments, the mind dares to wander, gentle but wild, curious yet oddly composed, seeking something unspoken by daylight and untouched by routine logic. Have you ever noticed how ideas sometimes arrive not by force, but as subtle invitations? Tiny golden motes flickering across the inner sky, waiting for you to reach out? It's in these midnight intervals that an old echo finds you, a mysterious conviction whispered by those who spent their lives shaping dreams into reality. You remember the phrase, perhaps first heard in a battered old book or caught between the lines of a late-night conversation. All that the mind can imagine, it can create. The words linger, tantalizing, neither promise nor warning, but an open door, one you're both nervous and eager to walk through. If you pause to trace back to the labyrinth of your own life, can you recall a moment, a fleeting spark, half dismissed as childish fancy, where something beautiful began with nothing more than a quiet, persistent image in your imagination? Even now, as you listen, a subtle pulse invites you to slip the leash and let your thoughts roam far from the boundaries you draw by daylight. Who decides what is possible? Is it history's verdict, logic's verdict, or the secret language of your own mind, spoken quietly as you drift towards sleep? Tonight, however, something feels subtly different in the air. There's a sense that the night itself is conspiring with your imagination, drawing you upward and inward all at once. If you close your eyes, you might sense a great cosmic canvas stretching far above, not empty darkness, but sky dusted with constellations that twinkle in warm, golden hues. Each star is distinct, yet together they knit patterns more intricate than any map. You can feel these constellations stirring just beyond the horizon of conscious thought, scattered insights, half-remembered hopes, the gentle architecture of ideas waiting to be traced and named. At this altitude, old boundaries dissolve, fears disperse like mist, and curiosity feathers into places where solutions weave with surprises. Does every star carry a memory, or is each a new possibility, quietly requesting its birth through you? You're not alone on this journey, even if it's unfolding mostly behind closed lids. Across time, countless seekers found their best discoveries not in the bustle of activity, but in the hush between waking and sleep. Perhaps you sense them beside you, the quiet company of inventors, artists, and thinkers who, like you, once stared into the dark and saw patterns instead of voids. What is it they understood about the fertile territory of imagination at rest? Did they learn to listen beyond words, to let their thoughts relax enough to wander, so that a sudden connection, a line drawn between two distant stars, would reveal itself without effort? Can you begin to loosen your grip, just a little, and trust that your mind knows how to navigate these star fields without your conscious steering? Consider, just for tonight, releasing any expectation that your imagination must perform on command or deliver solutions like a vending machine. Instead, allow yourself to drift. Let the mind play the softer notes, feeling rather than directing, moving slowly through possibilities. Imagine what it would be like if answers, new perspectives, and even glimpses of your own future didn't have to be forced, but could arise quietly while your body rests and repairs itself. Already, a gentle clarity begins to gather, almost imperceptible but there, the subtle sense that something within you is organizing itself with effortless grace, drawing connections along threads of golden light that only reveal themselves when you surrender to the journey. Tonight, as you settle into this bedtime story, you are not just an audience, but a traveler and co-creator. The boundaries between fact and fantasy, past and future, dissolve just enough for your mind to stretch out, explore, and remember its creative nature. What will you discover as you cross that threshold between day and dream, led not by certainty, but by the quiet confidence that somewhere in the vastness of your inner night sky, the next idea, the next chapter, is waiting to be drawn. You won't know until you let go and listen. So let yourself drift, held gently by the promise that every star above you is the beginning of a new constellation, a new insight, a future that's quietly finding its form while you rest. And when dawn comes, perhaps you will open your eyes and feel something you hadn't known before, a sense that the whole night was quietly working in your favor, that clarity is possible, and that the best parts of your story may be just about to unfold. The city was asleep, but for Anna, the night was only beginning. Shadows painted patterns on her ceiling as she slipped beneath the quilt, her thoughts unwilling to be tamed by exhaustion. She had always been a collector of questions, a quiet architect of possibilities and what-ifs. Her mind refused to settle into predictable patterns, wandering instead toward realms that shifted each time she blinked. On her nightstand, a half-finished sketchbook whispered for attention, its corners bent from many restless nights. Tonight, something different pulsed at the edge of her sensing, a distinct urge to shape the formless, to give her imagination a stage broader than her usual fleeting inspirations. As she lay quiet, breathing in the familiar scent of paper and lavender, Anna imagined herself walking through a doorway she had never noticed before. This threshold, neither imposing nor grand, led to an invisible theater filled with silent tapestries, fragments of images, symbols, and ideas floating in the air. The boundaries between her and these visions seemed unusually thin, as if logic itself had briefly loosened its reigning grip on her mind. Within this space, each tableau felt alive with possibility. She could almost sense the hum of conversations between untold stories and half-formed dreams. Unfazed by doubt, Anna reached for a floating brush and let the colors spill, not onto paper, but across this internal horizon. The usual crust of self-critique melted away, replaced by a gentle playfulness she had long forgotten. At that exact moment, a memory surfaced, one not her own life, but a tale her grandfather once narrated on another sleepless night years ago. In his voice, tinged with salted dusk and distant thunder, he spoke of an old watchmaker who believed solutions to stubborn problems slept tucked away among his dreams. Legend had it that the watchmaker would leave a cracked timepiece on his bedside table, closing his eyes with quiet requests for help. Most nights, his sleep ran uninterrupted, but every so often, he awake just before dawn with his hands moving, guided by a strange certainty that he knew where to find a missing part or the new design. Anna remembered how her grandfather had paused, as if letting the weight of the story settle, before asking her, what if sleep is not an escape from the day, but the canvas where tomorrow is sketched? Building upon this, Anna considered her own restlessness differently. It became clear the hurdle was never the absence of ideas, but rather the reluctance to let them evolve in their own peculiar rhythms. Perhaps, she pondered, the art was not in chasing visions, but in remaining receptive, a bit like tuning into faint music in a crowded cafe, trusting that the melody would rise above the chatter when the time was right. The thread connecting her to the watchmaker's legend grew more tangible, inviting her to experiment. Without forcing the process, Anna reached for her sketchbook and softly scribbled down a fleeting shape, its form incomplete, its meaning elusive. She smiled, recalling her grandfather's gentle chiding. Even unfinished dreams have their place. As the hours slipped by, Anna felt her body settling into a tranquil weightlessness, her mind weaving a tapestry that spanned far beyond familiar constellations. Images poured in, a lantern-lit alley, the distant tolling of church bells, a new face waiting for introduction in a story yet untold. She let herself drift, not toward answers, but toward the peculiar thrill of seeing where her unhurried mind might guide her. At the very boundary of sleep, she felt gratitude, a subtle acknowledgement that alongside exhaustion and uncertainty, her creativity was still quietly sifting gold dust from the shadows. Now, as you rest, ask yourself, where might your imagination lead if you simply dare to step through that unnoticed door? Perhaps, like Anna, you'll find that in these twilight hours, possibility is not so much a destination as a companion that lingers, ready to sketch hidden futures while the world outside slumbers. While Anna's consciousness hovered in that delicate boundary between awareness and slumber, a new visitor arrived in her thoughts. Her childhood friend Marcos, a man of serene demeanor and nimble fingers, once renowned among their group for weaving intricate sculptures from wire and cast-off trinkets. Back then, late-night competitions to invent improbable machines from kitchen utensils were their secret ritual. Now, years later, Anna remembered with surprising clarity how Marcos could transform even the most unremarkable object into something unexpected. His gift had little to do with raw talent and everything to do with particular habit. He saw the world as an endless web of potential. That night in the silence, Anna imagined walking with Marcos through a strange, timeless atelier lined not with shelves, but with mirrors angled in peculiar ways. Each reflection bent reality, stretching ordinary shapes into unfamiliar horizons. There was a thrill in realizing that within this space, the familiar world was not fixed. It shimmered, rearranged itself, became a playground for intention. It wasn't enough to dream up new forms. One had to be willing to reframe what was already present, to tilt a situation and catch its unseen facets. Anna watched as Marcos picked up a battered watch, twisted it until its shattered crystal caught and refracted the dim overhead light, and then simply joined the face to a cold spoon, inventing a curious little bird. His laughter broke the spell, and emboldened, Anna lifted an old brass key, pondering what hidden door it might unlock if she dared to look askew. Beyond the practicalities of invention, however, Anna recognized something subtler in Marcos's process. He questioned the limitations others accepted. If the world insisted that a spoon must only serve soup or a key must fit only one lock, he gently declined the premise. Instead, he delighted in asking, what if? Not in a reckless way, but with a childlike reverence for the abundance of options. In that imagined workshop, the act of making was less about materials and more about dissolving the boundaries set by habit and expectation. This challenged Anna, for she realized how often she had tiptoed around opportunities, her vision gated by lines she no longer remembered drawing. Now, consider how this applies when you confront entrenched routines, whether in creative work, relationships, or self-doubt. Rather than resign yourself to the roles and tools you've been granted, you might start by investigating the frames you inherited. As you lie there, what invisible rules govern your choices? Which assumptions could you gently unsettle? And which patterns might reveal unexpected escape valves, if only viewed from another angle? Sometimes, true invention begins when you risk nudging loose a single brick from the wall and discovering a secret window beyond. In the subtle hush of the night, Anna and her companion pushed further into the mirrored labyrinth. The air tasted charged, as if possibilities were not so much invented as uncovered, liberated from beneath layers of dust. Anna's hands trembled over a series of peculiar wires, thinking how rarely she troubled herself to ask why something was made in the first place, and whether it must always remain so. In that workshop of the mind, she glimpsed the humility required to accept unfinished answers, embracing not only the comfort of solutions, but the thrilling discomfort of new questions. It was the understanding that imagination flourishes not just in construction of worlds, but in the boldness to unmake and remake, to let go and begin again. As the atelier faded softly into folds of sleep, Anna's final impression was neither a triumph nor conclusion, but a quiet promise. Every night offers a new vantage point, every boundary a chance to sift possibilities from the shadows. Just as Marcos's laughter echoed through her memory, so too did the knowledge that what feels fixed can shift, if only you allow yourself to see it slantwise, with curiosity guiding your hand. A clock somewhere in the apartment ticked, its quiet pace a reminder that time moved indifferently through the deepening night. Yet within Anna, something alive resisted such predictability. Her mind, suddenly restless with anticipation, conjured the image of a grand, ancient library buried beneath a labyrinth of forgotten streets. Yet, unlike any library found above ground, this one was not constructed of neat rows or even chronological catalogs. It sprawled in unpredictable directions, with each corridor reflecting a mood, a fleeting intuition, or a question she never dared articulate aloud. When Anna drifted through these imaginary corridors, she noticed that the very air shimmered with bits of narrative waiting to be noticed. There, a shelf bristling with the unfinished experiments of distant ancestors, blueprints for eccentric devices, half-coded letters, and plans for wind-powered marionettes. Further along, dim alcoves held journals filled with dreams neither discarded nor realized. Occasionally, a gentle rustle would stir behind her, and she'd glimpse the outline of a fellow traveler. A poet from an unfamiliar century, an engineer swaddled in ink-stained linen, a child tracing shapes in dust. It was clear these denizens of the shadowy library were unbound by logical sequence or conventional wisdom. Instead, they followed the logic of curiosity, piecing together fragments with a faith that something vibrant would inevitably emerge. Amidst the library's peculiar order, Anna realized that ideas sometimes required marination, slowly soaking up meaning, quietly evolving while ignored by the brisk calculations of daytime. She trailed her fingers along a well-worn wooden railing, pondering a notion she'd overheard in a cafe months earlier. Did the source matter? In this place, influence flowed freely between persons and ages, dissolving the notion of individual genius. Perhaps this collective repository was what truly powered invention, the invisible scaffolding beneath each so-called solitary spark. She wondered, as she wandered, whether every story she'd ever dismissed as impractical had actually laid the groundwork for tomorrow's solutions. A faint hum resonated, drawing her toward an irregular alcove framed by cascading vines. As she stepped closer, a peculiar scene unfolded. Two figures hunched over a sprawling map, not of land, but of emotion. Lines and arrows wove from courage to hesitation, from envy to resolve. Mapping decisions not as destinations, but as journeys affected by feelings rarely acknowledged. The sight startled Anna, for she recognized immediately its relevance to her own hidden reservations. Too often, she realized, the map by which she navigated was distorted, misleading her to well-trodden circles, away from daring routes she had quietly ached to explore. She watched as the figures rearranged the pathways, allowing for detours and sudden leaps, proving that the heart's impulses, so often dismissed as noise, might be precisely the engine for new frontiers. Pacing onward, Anna uncovered yet another chamber, this one dimly flickering with lanterns powered by whispered intentions. Here, she encountered a sleep-deprived scholar who paused, mid-translation of an indecipherable script, to offer Anna a riddle. Is not true discovery simply the art of entertaining what the world has not yet taught us to refuse? The scholar's words struck her. What did it mean, truly, to welcome the unknown with outstretched hands? Anna had often filled her days with the comfort of mastery, reluctant to appear uncertain. In the library's hush, however, uncertainty shed its menacing cloak and shimmered, instead, with possibility. Suddenly, a bell sounded from somewhere high above, signaling a subtle shift. Anna realized how rapidly the internal landscape could transform. Curiosity gave way to delight, then to reflection, weaving a pattern too complex to ever fully capture. Her feet sunk into the plush, impossible carpet, warm from all who come before. She closed her eyes and allowed herself to simply listen, not for answers, but for the questions circling like secret constellations just beneath conscious thought. Now, as you find yourself dwelling on your own reservations and possibilities, think of Anna's journey through the hidden library. Can you recall the half-formed ideas and fleeting emotions you shelved, only for them to mature over silent months or years? Might there be a gallery within you where the improbable is just patiently waiting, its contours coming into focus only when your mind dares to wander without agenda? Let yourself linger in that imaginative library tonight, observing without judgment the wild variety lining your shelves. There, perhaps, is the richest soil of all, fertile ground for the unexpected seedlings of your future. Night thickened as Anna's inner journey carried her from the hidden labyrinth of her imagined library into a realm even more elusive, a garden suspended above clouds, where possibilities sprouted in directions that defied all rules of nature. The air shimmered cool and fragrant, rustling with the sound of invisible insects and the faint laughter of something ancient but benevolent. Unlike the orderly archives she just left behind, here the ground rose and twisted unpredictably, pathways forming underfoot as her desires shifted. The garden was alive with paradox, blending ingredients that daylight logic would never dare to mix. Roses with porcelain petals, vines bearing luminescent fruit shaped like wishbones, and most strangely, pools of water flickering with scenes of futures that hadn't come to pass. Drawn by curiosity, Anna wandered among these strange beds, her fingertips brushing the odd textures. As she bent over a cluster of cobalt blue flowers, a gentle breeze brought with it the subtle scent of burnt sugar and citrus. A fragrance so familiar yet impossible to pin down. She realized each plant pulsed gently, as if breathing. This garden seemed to thrive not just on sun and rain, but on something more ambiguous. Intention mixed with uncertainty. Each time Anna focused on an idea, the surrounding foliage trembled, shifting hue or form as though echoing the shape of her thoughts. The phenomenon astonished her. At first, she thought to test its limits. Could she force a vision of grandeur, a towering palace or dazzling festival into bloom? Try as she might, the garden resisted obvious commands. It only responded when her focus softened and imagination took nuance over force. Further along, Anna encountered an old gardener tending a row of peculiar branches strung with bells made of crystal. He worked in studied calm, clipping and training the unpredictable shoots with movements that combined precision and improvisation. Pausing in his rhythm, he offered Anna a freshly picked fruit. "It tastes different depending on your mood," he murmured. Anna bit into it, surprised as the flesh dissolved into flavors both sweet and slightly bitter, tasting of childhood summers and grown-up regrets. For a moment, memory and anticipation melded on her tongue. She glanced at the gardener. Puzzled, he shrugged, smiling. Growth requires more than light. Doubt and hope feed the roots in equal measure. His words lingered, inviting Anna to consider the role of seeming setbacks in nurturing original thought. Pushing on, she noticed the garden's paths sometimes forked abruptly, then rejoined as though encouraging experimentation. She dared to follow one narrow trail hidden by overgrown ferns, stumbling upon a clearing filled with mirrors hung from trees at varying heights. Each mirror reflected her image against a backdrop, not a garden, but of moments when she had risked expressing herself despite fear or awkwardness. There, the mirror showed her challenging a smug professor in college. In another, confessing affection without expectation of reward. Farther down, giving voice to a risky idea in a silent room. The path through the clearing felt fraught, the air heavier, but Anna pressed on, breathless with the realization that true creative power often emerged from the willingness to stand exposed, to let uncertainty sharpen rather than dull her vision. Emerging from the clearing, Anna felt lighter, carrying an odd sense of kinship with all those who ever nurtured something delicate and unformed. The garden, she saw now, flourished not in spite of doubt, but because of it, like the fruit's sweetness enriched by bitterness. Her courage grew richer the more she embraced imperfection and unpredictability. For you, lie in quiet now. This garden suggests a crucial invitation. When next you hesitate on the edge of sharing a wild hope or acting on a hunch, remember, sometimes your future blooms brightest in the soil you're most afraid to till. Which paths in your own creative garden beckon, yet remain untrodden not for lack of sunlight, but from hesitation to see what strange flowers might take root there. Beneath the ever-darkening arch of her imagined sky, Anna found herself magnetized toward the soft glow of a distant aurora. Unlike any phenomenon she had witnessed in her waking life, this radiance, swirling with ribbons of jade and opal, seemed tethered to neither earth nor horizon. As she drew closer, the air shimmered with possibility, charged with energy that pressed gently against her skin like a breath of static before a summer storm. The path ahead narrowed into a corridor of translucent stones, each one embedded with ephemeral scenes, moment of bold pursuit, irreversible decisions, and the mysterious workings of chance. A figure soon emerged from the luminous haze, a weathered cartographer whose eyes sparkled with both mirth and wisdom. Where one might have expected a map of places, his parchment unfurled an intricate web of potentialities, each thread pulsing faintly with yet-to-be-realized outcomes. Before Anna could ask a question, the cartographer nodded knowingly, as if he could sense her intentions forming on the edge of thought. Every mind, he gestured, not only dreams but navigates. Imagination is a compass, but uncertainty is the wind. These words rang with truth, challenging Anna to acknowledge the vital interplay between agency and surrender in the act of creation. What followed was not a dialogue, but a guided practice. The cartographer beckoned her to sit beside him on a bench made of star-hardened wood, laying out a series of pebbles, He demonstrated subtle shifts in their arrangement, observing how the configurations altered the course of a tiny stream trickling nearby. Each touch sent ripples radiating outward, twisting currents, carving new inlets, disrupting the flow. He encouraged Anna to add pebbles of her own, inviting her to notice how both deliberate choices and hesitant, accidental placements contributed to the river's evolving course. It dawned on Anna that this was less a lesson in engineering than in the choreography of instinct and intent. Sometimes a gentle nudge or an unplanned impulse set in motion the most astonishing transformations. Building momentum. The cartographer began to recount the tale of Amalia, a once obscure sculptor from a distant city, whom Anna had never met but instantly felt she understood. Amalia's work had never arisen from diligent sketches or sequential plans. Instead, it bloomed from a willingness to trust an inexplicable urge, a sudden compulsion to chisel not where she ought, but where it felt incongruously right. One evening, as a violent storm battered her studio's high windows, Amalia surrendered to a moment of irreverence, slicing a block of marble on an unmarked diagonal. The resulting fissure did not ruin the piece as logic warned. Rather, it revealed a hidden core of rosy quartz, catching the light in a way no deliberate hand could have uncovered. The city soon whispered about the unexpected wonder born of her risk, a testament to creative power not of certainty, but of wise, intuitive abandon. Now, reflecting on Amalia's story, Anna realized that the most luminous ideas in her own life had arrived when she consented to be slightly lost, when the fear of error gave way to playful curiosity. This understanding, at once liberating and unsettling, challenged her to reconsider how she approached problems that demanded ingenuity. The cartographer's challenge lingered in the air. Could Anna fix her direction while still leaving space for the wind to shift her sails at the last moment? For you, lying quietly as the night weaves its gentle spells, consider where in your own landscape you might lean into this tension between navigation and drift. Is there a decision before you? Creative or otherwise, we have hesitated, waiting for the right clarity instead of experimenting, perhaps failing, and thus discovering new territory. Sometimes, the most astonishing solutions or moments of beauty arise from the willingness to unsettle your own plans, to watch the aurora of possibility change the colors of your personal sky. In this heart of the night, your imagination is not passive, but powerfully responsive, capable of plotting unfamiliar courses if you let instinct and ambiguity share the helm, just as Anna and cartographer did, surrendering to the deep and unpredictable currents. Anna's journey deepened as the landscape of her mind shifted once more, drawing her into a surreal marketplace, aglow beneath a canopy of starlight. This was no ordinary bazaar. Its winding lanes defied geometry, looping back on themselves or vanishing behind tapestries woven from silken aspirations. The market thrummed with quiet energy, each stall offering something intangible yet alluring. Vials of captured curiosity, baskets of resilience glinting in the faint light, and strings of transparent spheres pulsing gently with anticipation. The air was heavy with the fragrance of possibilities, sweet but with an underlying note of risk. Pushing past the curtain of wind chimes, Anna met a wiry merchant perched atop stacks of intricately carved boxes. The man's eyes sparkled with secrets, and without preamble, he beckoned her closer. "What brings you here?" he asked, tilting his head as if the answer lay somewhere on her skin. Halting briefly, Anna realized she was there not for a single thing, but for the chance to bargain for something she couldn't yet name. The merchant grinned knowingly and, with a flourish, opened a box to reveal a set of multicolored keys, each emitting its own faint chime. "Choose only one," he cautioned, "and trust your instinct, not your reason." There was no label, no sign to guide her. She hesitated, reaching for a cool blue key before pulling her hand away and instead taking the warm, rose-toned one, a split-second decision that, inexplicably, filled her with both worry and excitement. Following the pulse in her palm, Anna wandered further into the depths of the market. Passing a tent swaying with lanterns, she found herself drawn to a storyteller whose hair shimmered with traces of silver. As Anna settled among the gathered crowd, the storyteller began to spin a tale of a woman who journeyed through deserts of doubt, clutching a riddle she could not solve. In the end, her breakthrough came not through calculation, but the courage to risk misunderstanding. She voiced the question aloud, inviting not only answers but also critique and new challenges. Rather than closing herself off, she used vulnerability as a currency to trade for new perspectives. In this narrative, Anna glimpsed her own desire to invite feedback, to accept that exposing an unformed idea often yields surprising returns, far exceeding the cost of temporary discomfort. The market's true magic, however, lay not simply in its wares, but in peculiar conversations threading through the night. Bursts of laughter sprang from a circle of inventors improvising with unexpected materials. A potter shaped clay not just with her hands, but with her breath, sculpting forms dictated by the rhythm of her own impatient sighs. Anna listened, fascinated, as two strangers debated whether beauty resided in symmetry or in the unpredictable quirks that made a piece clearly human. Each exchange, she noticed, sparked shifts in her own thoughts. Questions she would never have considered alone emerged naturally in response to the jumbled marketplace chorus. Against the din, Anna paused to observe a quiet transaction between two elders swapping pebbles from their childhood homes. The gesture was simple, even mundane, but Anna saw reflected in it the essence of collaborative creativity, offering up a fragment of self while accepting another's memory in return. She wondered, as the market faded into the periphery, how often in her own life she'd overlooked the value of trading small risks and authentic exchanges for safety and perfection. Perhaps the most precious gifts were not those hoarded in secret, but those tested in the bustling agora of minds meeting in trust. Now, as you reflect on this bustling inner marketplace, consider what would change if you approach your own challenges as an opportunity for exchange rather than solitary conquest. In the context of your work, your relationships, or even your personal uncertainties, how might the act of offering something unfinished, an idea, a question, even a doubt, invite unexpected solutions, partnerships, or solace? The night quietly suggests that every creative step is, in truth, a negotiation, a barter between instinct and intellect, possibility and restraint, self and other. Are you open to seeing what forms unexpectedly emerge when you trust this process, letting each encounter shape not just your vision, but your courage and capacity to welcome change? In the heart of that dream-soaked cityscape, where nothing followed straight lines and every alleyway teased with unsolved mysteries, Anna's path led her toward the unexpected pulse of music. Faint at first, it mingled with the breeze, spilling warmth even into the corners untouched by electric lanterns. Following the sound, she arrived at a plaza fringed by crumbling archways and windows flickering with candlelight. Yet at its center was something she'd never seen, a grand piano, so luminous it almost seemed carved from the promise of sunrise. Surrounding the instrument, a gathering of strangers leaned in with rare anticipation, their eyes wide not with sleepiness, but with the anticipation reserved for first breath before revelation. The piano's lid was closed, yet the figure seated before it, the kind of person who looked both ancient and ageless, sat motionless, fingers hovering an inch above the keys. Silence enveloped the space, so complete that Anna felt as if the plaza itself was holding its breath. Then, without visible cue, the pianist looked up. "This music," he confided to the circle, his voice a low, resonant murmur, "can only be played if everyone here imagines a different ending." A ripple passed through the crowd. Some smiled in confusion. Others exchanged quick glances, but none dared to laugh outright. Anna sensed that something profound was at play, something that required more than simple attention. It asked for presence, for surrender. What followed didn't resemble a concert as Anna had known it. Instead, as the pianist began, each note felt like the opening of a fallible door, sometimes clear, sometimes stumbling. Pauses were held just long enough for the mind to rush in and fill the void with anticipation, unease, or fleeting thrill. With each chord, Anna sensed the invisible threads connecting the audience, weaving together dozens of unseen stories, desires, regrets. Though no one spoke, she realized that within that hush, each person's imagination reached out and brushed up against the others, sometimes agreeing, sometimes jostling, always shifting the possibilities of what the music might become. While Anna listened, an old memory surfaced unbidden, sharper for its contrast. She recalled a time in her youth when she'd insisted on knowing the proper steps for everything. The recipe for cake, the critical formula behind a math problem, even the traditional way to end a bedtime story. Rules that felt comforting, like well-fitted shoes. Yet here, confronted by the willingness of the musician to court the unknown, to risk a melody's collapse by refusing to dictate its conclusion. She felt a shiver of both fear and liberation. The performance was, in a sense, a living illustration that uncertainty was not only permissible but essential to creative evolution. As the piece neared its end, Anna found herself unconsciously leaning forward, breath caught in her throat. The pianist, having guided them through minor and major, through lingering dissonance and sudden harmony, lifted his hands without playing a final chord. Into the silence spilled a quiet, collective sigh. The audience recognized, as if in silent agreement, that the resolution belonged to each of them now. Would they choose to hear triumphant closure, melancholic longing, or playful irresolution? The choice brimmed with power and responsibility, and Anna realized that, unlike the logic of daylight, this nighttime gathering prized the ambiguity of endings, open enough for every dreamer in the circle to claim ownership. Now, reflect on your own experience when faced with opportunities lacking prescribed resolutions, where you become part author of the outcome rather than a passive witness. How often do you grasp for certainty, aching for the comfort of finished lines, when perhaps the true beauty lies in the spaces deliberately left unfinished? Canvas waiting for your brush, music holding its breath for your final note. As Anna finally stood, carrying with her the echo of that shared silence, she understood. The music did not end. It transformed, swelling quietly within her, a gentle reminder that some futures are sculpted not by answers, but by the fearless act of surrendering to the unknown in the company of fellow dreamers. Reflecting on this journey so far, the night has gradually unfurled itself not as a sequence of isolated moments, but as a quietly deepening water, where each ripple, initiated by a word or gesture, or even the faintest internal murmur, sends its patterns through every layer beneath. Anna sensed this interconnectedness with uncanny clarity, like stepping into a gentle current and feeling, with each step, how the whole river's rhythm changes in response. The figures she's met, the strange landscapes she's wandered, and the half-understood dreams that brush against her, all seem to form not so much a pathway as a subtle network, fragile yet infinitely wide, suspending her somewhere between wakefulness and revelation. As she walks onward, Anna becomes aware of a gathering momentum within her. The way one hue in the evening sky softens imperceptibly into the next, until the memory of color is both present and elusive. There's a sense that the ground itself is shifting, quietly guiding her feet without demands. Even silence, often so easily overlooked, becomes something textured and meaningful, like walking barefoot over velvet moss after a rain. Now, sensations fuse into meaning. Thoughts, once scattered and wayward, begin to arrange themselves with a logic that feels closer to music than mathematics. Each moment before seems to echo faintly in the present, suggesting that what has already been felt is not lost, but transformed, lifted into an architecture that only reveals its shape when viewed through the veil of experience. In this rare state, Anna realizes that anticipation itself carries weight. It's not a restless longing for what comes next, but gentle holding open of possibility, a space cleared for yet to be seen. Around her, the air vibrates with a quiet expectation found in theaters just before the curtain rises, or in a hushed pause before an orchestra's opening note. The world within and the world without seem momentarily suspended between exhale and inhale. In these intervals, you too may sense a subtle gathering of purpose. The press of gentle hands shaping clay before the sculpture is known, the soft rustling of unseen figures setting the stage for a performance only you can interpret. Even Anna's thoughts begin to flow differently, less as arguments or certainties than as interlocking strands of curiosity. She finds herself less concerned with conclusions and more entranced by the intricacies of this invisible weaving. How the whisper of one idea catches on the edge of another, how patterns emerge only by yielding to the interplay of shadow and light. It feels less like arriving at an answer, and more like learning to listen to the subtleties beneath ordinary sound, those harmonics that can only be heard when one is very still. There is a heightened awareness of the shape of potential, the sense that, just out of reach, something meaningful is crystallizing, a meaning constructed not from singular insight, but from the layering of countless soft impressions. For you, tuned now to this hour's luminous hush, there is an invitation to recognize the power in these spaces between. Imagine standing in a forest at dawn. Before the birds begin to sing, there is that sacred second when the air trembles with everything it might hold, and the next step could usher in the sun or simply more willing darkness. This is the moment Anna inhabits. Her senses sharpened, unafraid, ready to welcome whatever shape the coming clarity might take. And as the soft current of this narrative carries you, there is an unspoken promise that what lies just beyond this turning is not a finish, but an awakening gently earned. So breathe in, let your pulse slow with the cadence of quiet discovery, and prepare to enter that final chamber where the night's journey gathers itself, subtle, complete, in a single, breathtaking exhalation. The story is still becoming, much like you, always a little further than what you can name, yet close enough to sense its warmth. The first tender rays of dawn crept across Anna's windowsill, pale and insistent, a gentle tap on the shoulder from the world outside, beckoning her back from the exquisite and bewildering constellations of her inner night. She turned beneath the covers, uncertain at first if the pulse in her chest belonged more to a memory, a wish, or the quiet anticipation of a day renewed. As the room slowly brightened, everything she had experienced, each star she'd reached for, every winding corridor, each voice encountered, lingered like the trace of a dream that refuses to dissipate without leaving something behind. Rising, she felt a strange lightness, but it was not forgetfulness. Rather, it was a gratitude of someone returning from a long voyage, pockets lined with curious stones and pockets of sand that would never quite shake free. There was a new clarity in that gentle fatigue, an understanding that the true value of her journey lay not in rigid answers or trophies gathered, but in having wandered bravely through such unknown night, heart open and senses eager, by daring to drift. Inward where logic melts and wonder reigns, she had discovered the quiet architectures of her own creativity, noticed at last how patiently her mind rearranges dust into gold whenever she loosens her stubborn grasp. As the city awoke around her, with its clamor and rhythm stitched back into the air, Anna didn't rush to resolve every mystery or tie each thread into a bow. Instead, she carried with her the delicious uncertainty that had animated the darkness, that any ordinary hour could bloom with extraordinary meaning, that the mind, when trusted, would draw constellations from what at first seemed only chaos. She saw her bedroom as if for the first time, possibilities sprouting not just in the daylight, but in the subtle spaces between routine thoughts, an invitation to let insight germinate in its own time, to cherish the gentle labor of not knowing. That habit of soft focus, learned in the hush of the night, followed her through morning rituals, infusing each gesture with a little of that midnight awe. Anna knew her journey through the midnight sky of the mind had not provided her with rules or guarantees. What she returned with instead was a new kind of courage, the willingness to encounter fear and doubt not as threats, but as necessary ground where the seeds of ingenuity nest and grow. She had learned, perhaps for the first time, to trust the slow work of the unseen, to delight in the texture of uncertainty, to risk failing beautifully rather than succeeding safely. In her reflection, she glimpsed not simply herself, but the echo of countless generations, visionaries, wanderers, quiet dreamers, who sense that what the mind can imagine, it can with gentle persistence usher into the waking world. As she stepped forward into the unfolding day, Anna felt a secret kinship with all those who move into the unknown bearing nothing but hope and the memory of star-dappled skies. The night had not solved every riddle, and yet she emerged somehow fuller, like a sky swollen with new constellations, radiant with imagined futures. In that afterglow, she understood. Clarity was not a prize at the end of rest, but a companion to be discovered in the very act of wandering. Our deepest answers are drawn forth not by force, but by curiosity, trust, and the grace of welcoming what reveals itself in the hush between day and night. And so, as you let the remnants of this bedtime journey linger in your own mind, may you, too, wake with that subtle sense that your future is being quietly sketched each time you surrender to the creative dark. Your ideas, wild and luminous, patiently await your courage not just to imagine them, but to believe, even as you sleep, that they are already preparing to come alive.